Good morning, I'm Hazel Jarvis. It's a cold grey day today. So we're going to imagine that we have gone to Paris and we're having a cup of tea and a couple of macaroons in a beautiful chic little restaurant. We're going to paint a beautiful, simple still life of macaroon, teapot and teacup. And here is the teapot in question, the cup and the plate. So this is our inspiration for the macaroons, and I took it from Unsplash, a great site for copyright-free photography. And this particular picture is by somebody called Divani. So I start by just making a couple of sketches to myself, deciding on my color palette and on the elements of my still life. I'm going to do a quick still life using the square Chinese teapot, a little Japanese cup, and macaroons on a plate. And instead of a realistic background, I'm going to do this sort of almost Wiener Werkstatter patterned square background. So I do my quick drawing, and now I'm going to make it just a little bit darker so you all can see. Here is the Japanese cup going in. I've got my lovely Chinese clay teapot over here. Nice simple shape. Here's the spout. Basically, the body is a rectangle and we're looking straight on at it. And then the lid comes up here. Handle is just some twisted bent bamboo. It loops through some notches. So I'm going to have to adjust that a little bit. And then I've got my macaroons down here. And my plate. And we're going to show a little bit of the underplate. And this is as much drawing as I want to do. So as you can see, it's a pretty simple drawing. And I've made it a little darker than I would do normally, just so that you can see the pencil lines. If you're worried about just drawing in the plate, you can always just use a handy template. Fold a piece of paper in half, cut a general plate, and draw around that. Let me just get this out the way. You don't want to make Luckily, everything else is a pretty simple shape, which is another reason why macaroons are so fun to do. We're just going to lighten the pencil line just a little because I don't want the graphite to make the paint too dirty. So we'll start with the lemony orangey one. So I'm going to mix 43 and 42 together, and I'm just going to paint the whole thing in. So this is now a little wet, so we're going to go and paint in the grape macaroon at the back because nothing is touching it yet. While I have this colour on my brush, I'm going to start by painting in the background. So I'm just going to paint in a random square over here, or a random rectangle. Then I paint in a few more just until I use up all the paint that's on my brush. So hopefully this is dry. So now we can paint the blueberry at the way back. And same thing with the paint that's on your brush. You're just going to use it up by painting in some of these lovely square shapes. Now for my strawberry, I'm going to use the red 35 with a tiny little bit of yellow ochre in. And what a beautiful color this is. Gosh, I bet this macaroon tastes delicious. So you want to just give it a little bit of an indentation where the filling is, and then you go wider again at the base. And you'll see how I'm using up the extra color on the background. We're going to take our blue 64 with a little bit of lavender 61, and we're going to paint in our Japanese teacup. And leave a little bit of white for reflection or for highlight. I take a thinner brush, a number 2, and I'm going to use the same color for the rim of the plate. We use the same colour for the inside of the cup. Going a little bit darker on this side where the light blocks. We'll add darker on the far side of the exterior of the cup. Then I mix a little bit of my brown, my burnt sienna, which is number 46, with my lavender, and I do the underside of the plate. I'm going to draw a tea bag in, because I always think a tea bag is very decorative. So we'll put a tea bag in, and we'll paint the teapot using a mixture of our yellow ochre and our brown 46. Just test that on a napkin. So in goes the spout. Better to start a little paler and go darker if you have to, than to go dark, too dark straight away. We'll put in just a little bit of shadow underneath the macaroons too. Now we turn our attention to the lemon macaroon. We do the filling, so we make each side of the filling just a little bit darker. Then we have this lovely sort of crusty, airy layer here, so we're going to put in this spongy layer now. So with a darker colour, with a little bit of that yellow-orange on our brush, we just start to dot in some areas so it looks as if it's just a little bit fragmented, this surface. And we take some of our colour and we add some shadow or some darker colour to both sides, just to give it that soft dome. And we do the same thing on the bottom. To get even more depth into my macaroon, I mix a little bit of lavender in with my yellow, which gives me a nice grey colour. And just in a couple of small areas, I can tuck in some dark, just to suggest some deep sort of air pockets in that macaroon. Now we repeat the process with the strawberry one. We go darker on either side of the layer of creamy filling. And then we put in the spongy layer above. And you can add just a tiny bit of purple if you want, and just go even just a touch darker in a couple of areas. And now we're going to repeat the process with our grape-flavoured macaroon. I mixed a little bit of my peony colour, 37, in with my purple, just to go a little bit darker in some of these areas. And I take a tiny bit of paint and I just tuck it in below, just to give some roundness to this macaroon. We can't really see any filling on the blueberry macaroon in the back, but I'm just going to imagine I can see just a little bit so it doesn't feel neglected. We're going to add some more shape to our teapot. So we'll just darken the under bit of the spout. Just to give it a nice shape. And we'll darken these, the hooks that hold the handle. And we'll go darker under the lid. Here's the lid. Here's the neck of the teapot. And I'm going to go darker down in the corner over here. I want my spout to have a nice, clean, sharp shape, so I'm just going to tuck in a little bit more colour. and tuck in a hole for the T. We'll add some details for the handle. Go a little bit dark over here. So the handle is basically 2 layers of bamboo, bent bamboo, bound together. So we'll just put some marks here to suggest that it's tied together. We'll decorate the teapot. We'll have the tea bag hanging on a little red thread. And we'll go around the tea bag label. I'm going to put a sun in mine because I want to repeat the yellow. I take the pattern from the plate and I'm going to transfer it onto my plate underneath the macaroon. So I'm putting on this stylized peony pattern. So finally, all that remains of this very quick little still life is to go a little bit darker on the cup, to just bump up the colour on the label, and then to fill in the background. So as you can see from my rough sketch, all I basically do is just repeat the colours that I've used in the painting, in the macaroons, in the background. So that's what we'll do. This is just a wonderful way of painting a small still life, and the trick is to really limit your colour palette and stick with it. I spent all morning shoveling snow, so I figure I deserve to paint 4 macaroons. But whatever you paint, it's up to you. I hope you'll enjoy it, and I can't wait to see what you do.